welcome each one of you, as well as our online guests as well. At this time, I'm going to call this meeting to order. Today is March the 24th, and the time is 6:07 p.m. At this time, I have two young ladies, Tatiana Greer, is that correct? And Layla Boone. They're going to lead us in a Pledge of Allegiance, as well as a moment of silence. So if you all will come up.
I pledge an allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic of which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Bacon, if you will come forward. Good afternoon, board members. We want to definitely salute our pledge students this evening. Let's give them a round of applause. They did a great job. So, Mr. Bacon, if you will present these lovely ladies. This is Tatiana Greer and Layla Boone. There's Miss Layla. And so, guys, if you all will go out in the middle, and Mr. Bacon is going to stand right there. And thank you, Mr. Basley. We'll take a picture. Yeah. Thank you, Ms. Carstarfin. All right, let's get another round of applause. Thank you. We have wonderful students at JES.
Are they still here? Thank you, young ladies. At this time, can I get a motion to approve tonight's agenda?
I made that motion.
Oh, I second the motion.
All right, the motion has been properly made by Mr. Rouse and second by Ms. Blackshear. Is there any discussion? Okay, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Ms. Blackshear, would you please read the ethics statement?
Yes, sir. In accordance with regulations set forth by the Georgia Ethics Commission, it is the duty of every board member to avoid both conflicts of interest or interest of such conflict. Does any board member have any known conflict of interest? Seeing none, Mr. Chair, we will proceed with our agenda.
All right, thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Do any of the board members, do you have any comments or remarks at this time?
I just would like to say thank you, Tweeds County Public Schools, for showing us so much love for Board Appreciation Week. We really, really, really appreciate it. Y'all show up and show out every year. So thank you for your support. We appreciate you guys. And everybody, you look good out there today. You look great.
Yeah, really do. Thank you, Ms. Blackshear. Ms. Blackshear keeps us in line. Mr. Bacon? Yeah.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to remind all the parents that milestones while we have spring break next week from March 30th to April 3rd, milestones in the course test and in the grade test are right around the corner. And please make sure your students are in school on time and they're using that time to practice. These tests are really important, determining their future. Also, good news for our juniors and seniors this week. Friday, the 27th, will be our junior-senior prom at the high school. It is called A Magical Night in the Kingdom. Yes. Wow. Yeah. So on Friday, March 27th, I'm very proud to announce that our juniors and seniors will be making their debut. So hope they enjoy that, Ms. Jenkins. Also, I had quite a few parents contact me on the superintendent's ear. I've been trying to call everybody back. I'm about 10 parents short. But one of the things that the parents did mention to me several times is about safety and about bullying and about other issues that we've been having in the school system. We're not going to hide from them. We're going to be honest about them. So one of the things that we've done for the remainder of the year using the security grant, board members, is that we have a third officer that we will have for the remainder of the school year. And it was off our security grant provided to us by the state of Georgia. The other thing is we will implement a anonymous bullying app for the students, and hopefully that'll be available where they can tell their problems and their issues, and that will come anonymously to a person, and that will be handled discreetly. And also, as you've known, if those of you keep up with our media pages, we've hired a social worker to start handling some of our attendance and other issues that our staff and faculty and families are having. So we're serious about making sure that you're safe and your kids are well adjusted. Just give us that time. That's all, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Bacon. At this time, can I get a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda, which includes the minutes as well as the district request?
I move that motion.
Second.
Okay, the motion has been properly made by Ms. Blackshear and second by Ms. King to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? If there is none, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Okay, at this time, we're going to move into our business agenda, and we're going to hear from Dr. Griffin Stewart. She's going to introduce, I assume, our young Georgia authors.
Good afternoon, Chair Karstoffen, Vice Chair Rouse, board members, Ms. King and Ms. Blackshear, and Mr. Butler. Before and to our superintendent, Mr. Bacon, all of our stakeholders listening virtually and in person, good afternoon. It brings me great pleasure to share our Young Georgia Author winners for the 2025-2026 school year. But before I can share that exciting news, we are a district with a vision and a mission. Our vision is generating excellence, one team, one goal, and our mission is to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. Strategic goals align to this presentation. Number 1, learning and wellness for all. And number 2, excellence ahead, academics, facilities, and opportunities. Just a little bit about the Young Georgia Authors Competition. It's designed to encourage students to develop enthusiasm and expertise in writing, to provide a context to just celebrate the fact that our students are writing. And it's also about recognizing student achievement in arts and academics. This prestigious competition has been engaging Georgia students for more than 2 decades and is open to any student currently enrolled in Georgia public schools, grades K through 12. The competition is sponsored by the Georgia Language Arts Supervisors and the Georgia RESA Network with support from the Georgia Department of Education. So board members, I want you to know there's a lot of planning that go into the Young Georgia Authors, and there is a timeline that we follow. So from August through January, our teachers and students are practicing writing instruction in all K-12 classrooms. January 2026, leaders and the master teacher, Ms. Denard, attended a virtual meeting to discuss the Young Georgia Authors timeline and writing collection process. So at that point, our teachers will start pulling those writing samples because writing is all year. January 2026, teachers received the Young Georgia Authors information in terms of the rules, the rubrics, and expectations, and it's shared with students. And so students have an opportunity to write, and they have various writing samples they can write. They can write a poem, they can write a short story, whatever they would like to express their writing. In February, the judging process took place at the school level. in February, the end of February, first place district winners writing submissions were submitted to Middle Georgia RESA. And then March, the first to third place school level winners were recognized with a small token of our appreciation for being the winner. And now we're here at the board meeting to recognize our school level first place winners. So without further ado, students from JES, when you hear your name called, please come forward. Our students will be draped with a nice medallion for celebration, as well as a certificate of recognition. So we start with our kindergarten student, Evelyn Martin. The name of the writing piece, Ducks. So Evelyn, if you're here, please come forward. Evelyn Martin. All right, our first grade student, Kinley Walker Carpenton. The day I got a robot. Carpenter. I'm sorry, Mom and Dad, Carpenter. So stay up here, sweetheart. Stay up here, thank you. Second grade, Kinsley Harris. The cat loved fishing. Kinsley Harris. There you go. Our third grade winner is Tatiana Greer. A Day with My Mom. Fourth grade is Layla Boone, Polar Bears. And then last but not least, our fifth grade student is Adeline Como. And it's a bird that lost their feather. So Mr. Bacon, if you would take a picture with our winners, and then we'll have a second picture. And then that second picture, I'll wait for this first picture. Let's give these beautiful young ladies a round of applause. Oh, guys, wait for just a second. Wait. Any parents, school officials, please come forward to take a picture if you would like. Any parents and school officials, we would love for you to join this picture if you would like. No parents? Parents, school officials, we would love for you to join this picture. Come on down. Let's give our JES students another round of applause. Parents, thank you so much for supporting our school district. So now we move to our middle school students. We will start with sixth grade, and our sixth grade winner is Dazzlin Johnson, Wicked Pranks. Dazzlin Johnson. Our seventh grader is Juliana Wise with Stars. Stay up there, yeah. Thank you, Juliana. And then our eighth grade student, Alyssa Newsome, Insomnia. Alyssa. All right, Mr. Bacon, if you would take a picture with those lovely ladies. And then if we have parents, school officials, if you would like to take a picture, please come forward at this time. Okay, let's give our middle school students another round of applause. And bringing up the rear, our high school students, 9th grade, Jordan Molina, Zombie Apocalypse. Our 10th grader, Azalea Wilson, Lovesick. 11th grade, Jaden Jones, Red Clay Roads, Jaden Jones. And then our 12th grader, Malik Bell, My Modest Proposal, Malik Bell. All right, Mr. Bacon, if you would take a picture with our handsome senior, Jaden Jr. Stand correct in a couple of months. Couple of months. Okay, Jaden, if you would remain, okay? So after we have school level winners, we take our samples.
Take the picture with the family.
I'm so sorry. Thank you, Mr. Rouse. I'm moving too fast. School officials, parents, please come forward. Take a picture. We would love to have you.
Come on.
Thanks, Mom.
Yes.
Hold up, Javante. They gonna let me get in this one.
All right, let's give this young man another round of applause. Jaden, if you would stay, if you would remain, Jaden. You'll remain, Jaden. We're excited. So just quickly, after we have school level winners, we submit all of our first place winners to Middle Georgia RESA. And our student samples are with Jones County, Bibb, Peach Monroe House, and just to name a few. So we have a rating contest at the second level. Miss Denara, who serves as our master teacher, she sits on that panel and help rate. And so I am excited to share that at the second level, Jaden Jones was in 3rd place. And so let's give him a round of applause. Very good. So, and Malik Bell, who could not join us this evening, he was our senior, and he was in 2nd place. So let's give Malik a round of applause in his absence. So I want to thank you, parents, school officials, board members, for supporting our students in writing, because writing is truly an academic skill, but it's a life skill. So that's all I have, Board Chair. Are there any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. I like good news. Just don't bring me no bad news. Mr. Bacon. Let's see.
Good evening, Board Chair Christoffen,
Good evening.
Vice Chair Ross, board members, families. Tonight, I'd like to give you an update on our 4-pronged stabilization plan. But before I do that, I'd like to remind everybody that we are a district with a vision, generating excellence, one team, one goal, with the mission to inspire, challenge, and prepare all of our students to compete globally. This presentation covers strategic goal 1, learning and wellness for all. 2, excellence ahead, academics, facilities, and opportunity. 3, doing things the Twiggs way. 4, growing and sustaining our village. And 5, a premier people first organization. As you know, we have instituted since January 19th the 4-pronged stabilization plan, and this is our second update. This is our 60th day of implementation. Our focus has been financial stability, transparency, and operational progress. Prong 1, our current fiscal year. We have new financial structure in place, which was approved by the board. Once our CFO resigned, we have a CPA. We met with the Georgia Department of Audits to clarify our financial positions, as well as our audit status. Our FY23 audit, we have in draft form. We're waiting for the final form, and then we will go to the FY24 audit to follow really soon. This Wednesday, we have secured and closed on our $1.5 million TAN for our cash flow stabilization. The district is now current on all vendor payments due to spending reductions and improved oversight. And as you will see tonight in the next presentation by Dr. Whitaker, we have a new financial reporting, monthly reporting format that will improve our transparency. Prong 2, all of our returning employees have been issued contracts. We have aligned our staff with our current allotments. We have not received our midterm allotments as of yet. The schools have started and mostly finished advisement process for next year. They had a meeting scheduled today, but due to some other things going on, that will be done on Thursday. And we will start our hiring process for all of our teachers for next year. Prong 3, strengthen our financial footing. You will see a new budget timeline at our next board meeting. And we have gotten input from our new financial team on how that's going to work. And our central office restructuring is underway, as stated several times. We're in the midst of that. And our social worker services have been restored due to your generosity last board meeting. On prong 4, our financial distress, audit findings indicate that we may be at risk to deficit funding. District is preparing for potential state requirements as needed, and we're working proactively with our auditors and state agencies to ensure that we're in compliance when need to be. So in summary, we have a new financial structure and team. We have a TAN that will sustain the district. All our vendor payments are current. We have improved transparency, in which you are about to witness this evening. Our staffing and scheduling are on track for next year, and we are strengthening our student support services. Are there any questions?
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Bacon. Dr. Whitaker?
Thank you for having me, board. We have tried to come up with a more transparent, user-friendly, appealing, informative approach to your monthly or your board financial reports. This is a work in progress. We plan to add to, adapt as you deem fit. If there's something that just doesn't make sense to you, or if you feel like you would better understand something, then just please let me know. We want to make improvements, and we want this is our first draft, so don't feel like we can't make any adaptations that you deem fit. We're going to start by going back over a revised December. I know December was presented to you, but there have been some revisions made, and this is using the new template as well. If we start with just the general fund, one of the main revisions to the December presentation was the TAN. Originally, the TAN was included in local tax revenue. In November, it was actually included in local tax revenue as well as the TAN line. In December, it was removed from the TAN line, but was still included in local taxes. So this revised December statement, the TAN is on its own line, you'll see the $874,500. That revenue is on its own line, and your local tax revenue, $4,009,000, is just property tax revenue. So that does not include the TAN anymore. That's the main revision to this schedule from what you saw in December. We've added a current month column. So column F would be the revenue for the current month, and then the expenditures for the current month. There weren't significant changes to the year-to-date expenditures. You'll notice school safety and security. If you look at that line, there were higher year-to-date expenditures than we could account for. So you'll notice the month expenditures is a negative number. So that's why that's negative. At the bottom, we've added a couple of extra lines. So you have excess revenue over and under expenditures. So you'll see for the month of December, you collected $2.3 million more than you spent. And this is mainly due to your big property tax. You get a big chunk of money for property taxes in December and January. So that number is very high for the month of December. That's not normal. That's because you get that big lump sum then. And then if you look at column F, that is your monthly revenue compared to expenditure. So column C is year-to-date, so that's everything that's happened through December 31st. Column F, current month, is what happened just in the month of December. So in the month of December, you had $1.585 million in revenue collected above what you spent in December. So December, your expenditures are pretty normal. They're pretty average. There's nothing crazy going on in December, but revenue is high in December. So that's why you're going to see a pretty significant positive balance there. And then at the bottom, we have a fund balance. We're going to begin to track your fund balance. So you'll have your beginning fund balance and then the changes in fund balance year to date, and then that'll give you an ending fund balance December 31st, 2025. You'll notice, though, I have an asterisk, and it says beginning fund balance is still being verified for accuracy. So we are waiting on the FY25 audit to be finalized, and then we're waiting on the 24 audit to take place before 25 numbers can be finalized. So I didn't want to prematurely put a number on there, and then, during that audit process, it change, and you be caught off guard. So we're working on getting a number that I feel comfortable, that I feel like is an accurate representation. And it'll keep that asterisk as long as we haven't had the audit completed, but I do want to get a better number before I put it on the spreadsheet for you to see. So that's forthcoming, and then you'll be able to, every month, you'll be able to track what that ending fund balance is. So that's December for general fund, and then you'll notice there is a separate sheet for if you want to look at capital projects next. Yep, so if you, and you can go in a different order, it's fine. But you'll notice that there's a different sheet for each fund now. It's called a component unit. So each fund will have its own sheet, its own tracking, its own keeping up with what revenue is coming in and what's being spent. Capital projects in December. So in December, everything, all of your expenditures year to date were lumped into one big category. You'll see when we flip to January, you'll see that I've actually broken it out by function. So we'll be able to track it a little bit more accurately by function. But for your December reports, there were no changes from the December that you've seen prior to this one, other than just the formatting. The year-to-date revenue and expenditures are the same. Debt service, those year-to-date figures are the same as well. So you won't see any changes from from the December that you saw prior. And again, if any of these reports, if you feel like there's a better way or a way that you would comprehend it better, please please let us know, and we can make any kind of adaptations that you see fit. And school nutrition, year-to-date, revenue and expense for December are the same too. So the only changes for those are just the formatting. So I just took the December financial reports, put them into a new format. The major updates were at the general fund level. Let's flip to January 26. Let's do general fund for January 26. So January 2026, general fund. So for January 2026, if you look at the top of column E, above the percentages, you'll notice 58%. So 58% is where we would expect to see ourselves at this point in time compared to budget. So we are 7 out of 12 months through the year. We've gone through 7 months. So you would expect to see yourself at about 58%. Local taxes is a outlier because you get big lump sums of money in December and January. So we would actually hope to see that number higher. And I calculated, so local tax revenue year-to-date compared to budget, you're at 82%. I calculated out what we received in February through June of last year, and if that holds true, we will collect another $1.2 million in tax revenue through the end of the year, which would put us a little above the 100% mark for our budgeted local tax revenue. So 82% I feel good about. I feel really good about that percent right now. And then, of course, we're a little bit high for state QB and for other state sources. I looked at your QBE midterm allotment, and your actual QBE allotment is actually $5,081,000, not the original 4.9 that was budgeted. So the original budget was a budget. It was a projection, and your actual QBE allotment is at $5,081,000. So that's why it's tracking slightly higher than 58%. So you're at 60%. So at the end of the day, you'll receive $5,081,000 in QBE revenue. Other state sources, that fluctuates as grants are, as we receive grant money. So that one can fluctuate too. So 66% is perfectly normal. Where the 58% really comes into play is in your expenditures. So if you look at that same column E down in the expenditure section, you'll notice at the very bottom, total expenditures are right on target. They are at 58%. But you have some categories that are a little higher, some are a little lower. There are no functions that I saw that are over to a point of concern. So if, say you had media services and it was at 78%, then we would want to dig into that, and I'd want to have an explanation for you. I wouldn't present that to you and say, here it is. So I would have an explanation for that, but all of the categories that we have right here, I mean, there are a couple that are higher than 58%, but we're able to see where there's maybe an offset in another category, or it was a one-time purchase that's not a normal recurring monthly item. So all of your expense categories in the general fund level look good. You'll see that column F for the current month, excess of revenue over and under expenditures, you'll see where that number came down significantly because you didn't get that huge tax check in January like you did in December. but you're still, year-to-date, you're still at $2.2 million, almost $2.3 million of excess revenue over expenditures, year-to-date, as of January 31st, for your general fund. If we flip over to capital projects, so January 26 capital projects. So this is where I was telling you that for January, I decided to break out your expenditures for capital projects. It's just a more accurate representation. So the first line, your local taxes, is your splosh revenue. And one of the first things you'll notice is that your splosh revenue for the current month of January was $1 million. And that's not normal, right? So, and the board has been aware of some of the things that are going on with that sales tax revenue and the collection and how we've gotten a couple of large dollar amounts. So what you'll see happen next month in the next reporting is that excess money that's not normal, we're gonna put it into Georgia Fund 1, into an investment account, until we can get some more clarification. But, you know, that is showing you that revenue that came in. The total SPLOST revenue, because it's divided between capital projects and debt service, so you put some of it towards debt service to pay your bond, some of it goes towards your capital projects. The total amount was $1,173,000. So $1,087,000 of it is represented here at the capital projects fund level. And then we had no capital project expenditures that came out of the capital projects fund in January. But if we flip to the debt service, so if we look at January debt service, you'll see, for local taxes, you'll see that other $85,500 represented there that totals the 1.17 million that was received for SPLOST revenue. So one thing you'll notice on the debt service is that the budget was $589,250, but we have, in January, I attributed additional funds to debt service because we really needed to budget for the principal plus 2 interest payments, because there is a second interest payment due in June. So there'll be an additional $79,250, which will be your interest payment that's due in June. So your year-to-date compared to your budget will be more than what you originally budgeted for, because we'll need to allocate SPLOST funds in order to cover that interest payment due in June. So next month, your budget of $589,000, your year-to-date will end up being $668,500, so that we allocate enough to cover both interest payments. So that's why when you look at the percentage to date of budget compared to what's been collected, it's at 111%. It's because it was under budgeted based on that interest payment not being included. And then if you look at expenditures for debt service, the only thing that's been paid year to date is one interest payment, and then your principal and your second interest payment are due in June. Let's flip to your special revenue fund. Special revenue fund for January. Your special revenue fund is your federal grants, any state grants, basically anything outside of just your general fund, your debt service, your SPLOST. School nutrition has its separate category. Special revenue is going to be mostly grant reimbursement type grants, mostly federal grants that are on a reimbursement basis. So in a perfect world, your year-to-date revenue and your year-to-date expenses are equal in a perfect world. we don't live in a perfect world. So a lot of times you'll see expenditures will be greater than revenue because it is a reimbursement grant. So you spend the money first, then you ask for the money to cover what you spent. So you spend the money up front, and so typically expenditures would be slightly higher than revenue, and then when you draw that money down, it balances out. I had a hard time with this year to date backing into what was previously presented. I know one big piece to the puzzle is that the pre-K grant, which I typically would include the pre-K grant as special revenue, but it's not been included previously. So I chose to not put it in to make things more complicated. But so the pre-K grant is not included in special revenue, and there's still possibly a couple other grants that have not been reported in this fund previously, but everything is now in there. So all of your special revenue, all of your grants, all of your state grants, all of anything that's got its own fund, its own bucket, is in here. So it's all in there now. And another step that I'm going to take is to verify this revenue and expenditures against your federal grants, against your consolidated application, against your D-147 drawdowns, just to have that additional detail level, and just to ensure too that these year-to-date numbers are accurate. I don't want to present anything to you and then later have to say, well, that wasn't quite right. I don't want to have to do that. So I want to make sure that these are accurate. So going forward, I'll probably present a little more detail. So right now, everything is just thrown into federal grant admin. In the future, we can break that out by function. We could also break it out by the grant itself. So right now, everything's just lumped into federal sources. So, I mean, that's an option if the board thought that was something that would be helpful. We could break it out by the actual grants themselves. But for now, for the month of January, this is what we have right now. And then we'll also work on having a beginning fund balance for that as well. Typically, for your special revenue funds, your fund balance is zero. So you have to end the year with a zero fund balance. You can't have money left over in those special revenue funds. You have to, if you spent more money than you've drawn down, then you have to set up a receivable for the money that you haven't drawn down. So that fund balance should be zero at the beginning of the year. And we can verify that and make sure that that is true, but that's how it should be. It should be zero. And then the last statement of revenue and expenditures is school nutrition. So school nutrition has its own fund, its own component unit, and it is it's tracking in line for your other state sources, which would be all of your school nutrition grants. It's right at 55%, which is slightly lower than 58. However, your expenditures are also lower. So your expenditures are only at 48% year-to-date compared to the budget. So I'm okay with your revenue being slightly less because your expenditures are a good bit less. So, so you're still revenue in excess of expenditures, you're still $62,692 positive. Do we have any questions about the revenue and expenditure side of it? We're going to flip to the balance sheet next. That's fun. Yeah. Once you digest it, let it settle and digest, and certainly it's a lot to go over, and especially in a new format. So you're looking at all of this for the first time. So if we look at the general operating account, yes, perfect. So this is a new financial report that we thought might be helpful to the board. And it is, it's a balance sheet, but it is on the cash basis. So it is a representation of the cash that you have on hand, the cash that you would have the ability to spend. So you have your actual cash that you have in the bank, and then we subtracted the payments that you've made but have not cleared the bank, so your outstanding checks. And then if you have receipts or deposits that have been made that are not reflected in your checking account yet, that would be added back. And at the bottom, it gives you an actual cash on hand balance. So the fund balance would be the actual cash that you have the ability to spend. And then at the very bottom where it says unrestricted days cash, this is a formula that tells you based on the amount of cash you have on hand and the amount of expenditures that you had this month, how many days could you go with that cash? And you'll notice it's 4.71, which is very low, but we know that we're working on that. So ideally, our goal would be 45 days. So we would like to have that come up to 45 days, and we would feel comfortable with our cash flow situation if that number gets up to 45 days. But I mean, that's not something we can fix overnight, so that's something that we're working on, but we thought that might be a good metric, a good ratio to be able to easily, what's your cash on hand? 4.71. Or what's your cash on hand? Oh, we're up to 50, so we know we're making improvements. So we just thought that might be a good metric that the board might be able to just have a quick glance at. I like the cash on hand basis rather than just a traditional balance sheet that I feel like cash on hand gives you a better representation of what we're dealing with in the moment, and also with us trying to improve your cash flow situation and trying to improve that, this is a better representation of our ability to do that. And if you see something that you would like represented differently or added to, then, we can definitely sit down and make that happen for you. So you'll see there's 3 of these balance sheets. You have the general operating account, you have the SPLOST account, and then you have the school nutrition account. So these don't exactly coincide with your revenue and expenditure reports because, for example, your general operating account, all of your general fund, all of your special revenue fund, all of that goes into the same bank account. So that's all represented in the general operating bank account. Your SPLOST is both your debt service and your SPLOST, your capital projects. So you have your capital projects and your debt service represented in that SPLOST bank account. And then you have school nutrition has their own separate bank account. So you'll see three of these balance sheet reports. You'll notice SPLOST, if we switch to the SPLOST one, you'll notice that if you look at cash on hand, you have 1,095 days. Well, that's because you have an extra $1 million sitting in the bank account. So with that extra money, so next month what you'll see is you have your checking account money, but then we'll move down to the investment line. We'll move that extra money that we're putting aside that we don't want to spend yet. We're going to put that into the investment account, so it'll come out of the formula for cash on hand because it's not cash that you have readily available to spend. So that'll go on the investment line, and it'll come out of that unrestricted days of cash. And then we just have one more for the school nutrition bank account. So do you have any questions about the balance sheet, or do we need to digest that too? Yeah. perfectly understandable.
Well, let me, while we're waiting. Um, the 1,086 days, 85 days, I don't have my glasses, but for that's sitting in a interest-bearing account.
So in January, it was not yet. We had just gotten the money in January. In
Gotcha.
February is when it
It'll
gets
go in
moved.
there.
Mm-hmm.
My question is, how long does it take before you understand and know, was this a major mistake or is this legit?
Yeah, and I'll let Mr. Bacon fill you in on some of that too, because he's been in a lot of communication with
Okay.
other entities
All
who
right.
we've been trying to get more information, so.
Gotcha.
So as of right now, Mr. Chairman, our lawyers are drafting some letters to the Department of Revenue. So there are questions that we need to answer. One, what happens when we cap at 6 million? Do we have to pay interest if we have to pay it back? What are the terms if we have to pay it back? If we're in a new SPLOS, do they hold that in a lien? So there's a lot of questions that we don't know, because very few districts have ever been in this particular position. So hopefully, once they write them, they get us the legal finding on that. I'll give that back to the board.
Ms. Blackshear, you had a question?
With the FY 25 with the FY 25 audit, and the format, I do like it, but, you know, we just got it, so it's a new format, so of course, I would like for us to get it in a timely manner too, so we can make sure that we look over it. Okay, and also, with the audit, the FY 25 audit, do you have a timeline of when it will be finalized? Do they know?
Well, the
Nothing?
23 audit should be done this week, or this
Okay.
coming up week. It was supposed to be done this week, so that's the 23 audit.
Okay.
Once that audit is finished, then the Department of Audits, the State Department of Audits is gonna do the 24 audit. And she said that they could get started just as soon as we could get it to them. So we have to wait for 23 to get done, and then they're gonna give us, just a very short window of opportunity to take the 23 audit numbers, and if there were any adjustments, carry that over into your 24 financial statements. So she's gonna give us just a little window of time to say, okay, well, you know, the 23 auditors made these adjustments, we need to make sure it's in 24, and then give them the 24 financial statements. And then, as soon as that's done, they are going to immediately pick up your 25 audit. She said there are a few things that they can do simultaneously, but not very many at all. So they're just going to schedule them back to back. So just as soon as one's done, the State Department of Audits will pick up 25 and do it just back to back. Yeah.
Any other questions? Later. Thank you very much. And then, let's see, what do we have here? Okay, Mr. Davis?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board, and good evening to all of our viewers out there. I want to start off by saying thank you for letting me share this data with you, the progress that we've been working on JES. So I'm excited to share with you everything my teachers have been doing. So we're going to move through the first slide up here. You know, we have two benchmark assessment tools that we use at JES. We use the iReady benchmark assessment, and we give that K through 5, and we give it K through 3 times a year, and we give it fourth and fifth 2 times a year. And then we give our Beacon assessment. And those two tools are utilized. The Beacon is for our 3rd through 5th grade. And that's a great way for us to check our progress throughout the year. If you look at the next slide, in the fall, we took the iReady assessment, and 14 of our students scored in red of our 3rd graders. Now, that means red means 2 or more grade levels behind. We took it again at the end of February, and that number of 14 went down from 14 to 8 students that were 2 or more grade levels behind. Yellow students are 1 grade level behind. Our numbers went from 17 students to 15. Look at our green. Our green were on grade level. We increased it from 15 to 22. And then we had 8 above grade level when we took it. We kept that number at 8 and actually added another one above grade level. Now, this is mid-year. This isn't the end of the year. We took this before we left for this one we took in February. So these are scores that we still had the teaching in February, March, and April before the milestone test. If you look at the next one, this is our math score for 3rd grade. The initial iReady, we had 23 students in the red. That number we dropped from 23 in the red to 12 in the red. We went from 25 students in the yellow. That number grew to 29, but that's where that 12 that were in the yellow moved up to there. Now look at our green. We went from 6 students on grade level to 10 students on grade level. And we had 3 striped students that were above, and those stayed strong. We had 3 students again when we took it again in February. Now, our 4th graders, now they did not take it again at the end of February. They only took it, they took it at the beginning of the year and in December. So this is just from the beginning of the year till December. We started with 27 students in ELA in red. We changed that from 27 to 16. So we almost cut that number in half. And then yellow, we went from 14 students in yellow, and of course those ones that turned red moved up to yellow. That number went to 26. We had 2 that were on grade level, and then in December that went up to 3. And then our stripe, we had 7 students that were above, and that number went down to 3. And I was a little bit alarmed at that, but we looked at the data, and a lot of those were 1 or 2 questions just over the line. And so 1 or 2 questions made them a difference of green or stripe there. So they were still in the upper green there. So that number range was based on just maybe 1 or 2 questions. All right, if you look at our math 4th grade, 27 students. Those 27 students went down to 16. 21 students in yellow went up to 24. Our green students went from 2 to 7. And then our striped students, we went from 0 above to 2 above. And now that's from the beginning of the year till December. All right, you're going to look at the 5th grade scores, ELA. 27 students. That number stayed the same, right about 26. And I went and talked to those 5th graders, and we kind of had these data meetings with them. And the 5th graders told me, they said, we were tired. We didn't take that test seriously. So I actually had a come to Jesus meeting with them, and I really talked with them about how important testing was. And you're going to see when we get to the Beacon test, because you're going to see the scores change a little bit after we had that little meeting. Our yellow students, 16 students, went to 14. Our green, 3 went to 6. We had 3 above. We rose to 4 above. Now that's from beginning to Christmas. And then our iReady benchmark scores for 5th grade, if you look at for math, 28 students went to 22. 18 went to 10. Green, we had 2 students. We went to 4. And then we went from stripe, 1 student. We rose that to 2. Now, the next data you're going to see is our Beacon data. Now, we don't have two numbers to compare with that, but we have realistic numbers with kids. So in December, we only had 3 red students in December. Those are the ones on the milestone that will score the 0 if they are in red. We only had 3. Look at our math. We only had 0 students in red for our 3rd grade. Our yellow, 51 and 23, those are your students that you expect to turn to green because this is mid-year. Look at our green. 2 ELA were on grade level, but look at this math. We've been working on those foundational skills, those math facts, and we had 27 that scored on grade level or above in December. Look at our 4th grade. We had 10 students in red in ELA. We had 9 students in red in math. We had 36 and 27 in our yellows. And then look at those greens. We had 2, but look at that math. We had 12 students already in December that were scoring on grade level, and a lot of those yellows are going to be moving up because remember, this was just December. Look at our 5th grade. We went 10 students in red. Now, remember that iReady group? We had 26 and 27 in the red on iReady. Remember that pep talk? That number went to 10 and went to 12, and then those students rose for that 37 and 26. And look at those ELA students, 4 students on grade level in December, but look at that math. 12 students there. So we expect a large portion of the yellows, but with 4 more months of instruction to move up to the green. Now, what patterns did we see? First of all, we had our students were struggling with our basic math facts, our addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. 40% of our students last year on the milestone scored a 0 in the writing portion because they either copied and pasted or they didn't have good sentence structure. Look at the next one. 147 students have missed more than 10 days of school so far this year, so attendance is still an issue. Students were not trying their best on assessment due to lack of intrinsic motivation. So those were our problems, so what did we do? We hired Dr. Dersey to work with our math teachers. We hired Dr. Holmes to work with our science teachers. Middle Georgia RESA contracted with us, and they started working with their teachers with a writing program to have unified writing across all grade levels and to create writing rubrics. We have collaborative planning protected on Wednesdays. We started doing Tier 2 intervention during our ILT time. So not just iReady instruction, the teachers are taking small groups instruction and working during ILT time with UFly. We have rewards. I started paying students for the highest increase in test scores. We started giving $20 prizes. It pays to learn at JES, and the students started trying their very best. We started announcing the highest growth. We started announcing the highest scores, and the students have a challenge to try to beat themselves. Our teachers started using cyclitic homework, which means it reviews the standards every single week. They don't lose anything. Those math facts are holy cards. That's a math fact thing like this. They work on their 100 math facts in under 2 minutes. They do it in addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. We started actively regrouping our students, which means we use data, and it doesn't matter what group they're in. If the data shows us they need to be in another group, we change them weekly, we change them monthly, we change them to match where the data is. And then we started our data talk with our 3rd through 5th graders. Now, we have the utilization of the milestone blueprint. That told us how many questions are going to be asked, how much emphasis do we need to be put on that. We did protected writing block. We did our UFly training for 3rd grade. We started an attendance task force. We started sending letters home at 3, 5, and 7, and we started having attendance meetings to fix the attendance. We had milestone practice starting in February. We started it earlier than we did last year. Now, this last slide is what I'm really excited about. This compares last year's milestone scores with what our predictions are this year using a calculation app that Bobby Smith gave me for the milestone. If you look, last year, at the end of the year, 44.25 was our ELA all-student total. If I put in our Beacon score in December, we beat it by 45 in December. Look at our math score, 54.37. By December, we scored 60%, so we've already beaten the end of the year score last year by December. Our ELA score of 44.25, we beat it with 59, and that's putting directly in our iReady scores and our Beacon scores exactly by the number count that are showing right now. And then our math score is 54.37%. That's not quite as high as it needs to be, but remember, this is December. We're not expecting to pass it by the end of the year. Our goal is to have that 50.8 score. If we look at our data, we put it in, and they tell me this is realistic data. You put the numbers in, it shows you what our scores should be. We have surpassed everything except for one area by December, so we are expecting great scores. And I just want to say thank you for your support. My teachers are working hard in the trenches each and every day. And if you have any questions, I really want you to ask those. You can meet me privately, or we can talk about any questions that you have. But I just wanted to share with you the progress that we made.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
How closely does the, you said the Beacon and the iReady, how closely have you, over the years,
Does it match?
does it match the actual test?
All right, my leadership team this past summer, we actually did a comparison analysis. We did a core group of drawing 20 students, and we compared the Beacon and the iReady, and they matched right along with the milestone test. The difference that I did last year that I'm not going to do this year is when I projected Beacon scores, I projected it on the top end. These scores are projecting the Beacon scores on the bottom end of the range that they have. So these scores that I'm giving you here, last year there was a range from yellow to green, and if it reached green, I was projecting green. This one, if it was yellow to green, I took the yellow score. So these are realistic scores, and the predictions that Bobby Smith shows me, he says it's within 2% of what we can expect on the CCRPI if you put in the data by real numbers. So if you see those printout sheets like this, you will find all those numbers in there, and that's by putting in the exact numbers that we had on the iReady and the Beacon. So hopefully this is showing, I'm excited about the results, and I hope it's showing real live data. But what I did is I did do the Beacon on the low end instead of the high end. Last year, if they were yellow to green and they passed green, I tried saying we expected them to make green. But this is realistic scores.
All right. Are there any other questions? Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Mhm.
Board Chair and Vice Board Chair and great board members. Again, this is an opportunity to share the state of the school data for the middle school. I just want to start by saying, of course, we are a district with a vision, and we are generating excellence, one team, one goal. Our mission is to inspire, challenge, and prepare all students to compete globally. Of course, we've coined the mantra, Cobra's ready, always ready, striking for excellence is what we do. So I'm about to do a quick data walk through you, which was definitely an abbreviated version from what we do there in the school. What you're gonna see is some data information related to iReady, Beacon. As Mr. Davis says, this is the data that we constantly rely upon to see how our students are progressing. You wanna know how we're doing, we wanna know how we're doing. I overloaded you with information, so if anybody's asking you what the assessment reveals, well, you know you're gonna see it because I gave you all the informational sheets so that you can share with our communities and those that are very concerned about the movement of the school. I'm gonna jump right in. We did a beginning of the year and the middle of the year assessment using our iReady data. Our growth for our sixth grade students was not as we expected, which prompted us to start moving very quickly to come up with a plan to work on improvement in the various areas. This is reading. You'll see that there's minimal growth here. Our students, I don't know if it's the excitement of middle school or what will be the major challenge, but we definitely felt like we need to plan intentionally to move those students and start getting them ready for the milestone experience. And so we did that after that second assessment revealed that there was minimal growth. We did start to celebrate when we got to seventh grade. Seventh grade here, you're gonna see there was an 8% growth when it comes to students who are 3 grade levels behind. Mrs. Christopher, when you spent time with us, you noticed that the foundational skills, and that's in reading and math, will continue to be a challenge, which is why throughout the years, you're probably gonna see about 50% of our students are progressing, and then 50% of our students are showing growth, but they may not be growing at the expected rate because of those foundational skills have to be embedded. For the seventh grade, you saw for reading, there was a 7% increase for students that were above or on grade level. And you'll notice that when you look at on grade level and above grade level, that 9% from 2% to 9%, when you're looking at the black to blue, is how we move. When you look at 8th grade I-rated data, the data shows the progress that has been made over time. Students who are multiple levels behind are actually growing in that building. There's growth and an improvement across all grade levels. I'm excited to say that we have about a 42% of our 8th grade students who are performing at above and on grade level. I'm not going to go through these data sheets because you've had a chance to look at it, but what I am going to share is that some growth trends that we're seeing in the building is that we've increased our opportunities to improve the academic tasks. We're heavily relying on our biweekly assessments, and as Mr. Davis says, once we start looking at the blueprints really tell you how many questions our students are likely to encounter. They also tell you what the particular areas are, and so we want to be intentional about making sure that that information stayed in front of those students, those standards, and those processes for mastering learning. We also were intentional about grouping. We sat down when we had our asynchronous day and we looked at every single student, and for many of them it was a disruption of their whole schedule because we wanted to make sure that those students that needed to be remediated had an opportunity to get that extra learning or slow down the pace of learning so we can build in those foundational skills as well as accelerate the learning. For 6th grade math, again, we're looking at that 6th grade student. There is a challenge when it comes to learning when they migrate from the elementary school to that middle school. Again, we increase our intentional focus. We guided and asked parents to help us with making sure that students were using their I-ready time appropriately at school and when they were off campus. Then we went to 7th grade, and again, it started to look like there was some movement there. What I want to talk about, and mostly when you look at it, is that on grade level, there was some increase right there. We didn't lose any kids in that process. When you talk about 7th grade data, our above grade level students stayed as they were. We did talk to Mr. Davis about what was he using to increase students' foundational skills, and we brought that holy grading process over to a holy card process over to Twiggs Middle High School, and again, it definitely helped to help our students with those skills that they need. When you think about foundational skills, we're talking about your ability to say 3 times 3 is 9, and repeatedly, those are foundational skills that you're gonna need when you start to do any math problem outside of JES. When you get from the 4th grade beyond, you gotta be able to do that. Then we looked at our 8th grade, and again, we started to say there's some excitement. 12% of our students moved from 3 grade levels behind. They moved up. You'll look at that number. We started off 3 grade levels behind. For 8th grade in math, it was 43% of our students. We moved up, and now it's 31% of our students. And you'll keep seeing the trend and how we're moving in the right direction. Again, you had a chance to scour over the I-rated assessment data that we broke down. Here's what I want to say. The milestone practice is important. We noticed that if students had an opportunity to really engulf themselves with those informational texts as it related to ELA, it's not the social media contacts that they're going to have, but this is really looking at informational text and gleaning the information. So when you say something like they're learning about the growth in Georgia when they moved from Atlanta to Terminus and all those different names, students don't really want to learn that, but what we have to do is keep saturating with that. Here's what we noticed. There were some challenges. Students had to have scaffold experiences. Teachers had to spend more time with them, but even for math and reading, we made sure that we took time to oversaturate them with the experiences so that this data that we have, which is just a midpoint, can look drastically different as we conclude this year. Getting ready to move into the DRC. Mr. Baz, you can move forward with that because I know the board members had an opportunity to read it. But when we talk about the DRC beacon, one of the questions you ask is how likely. It looks very likely. The DRC beacon is one of those assessments that the students get a chance to practice what the milestone would look like. In fact, there's a speaking and listening part. The beacon assessment this year gave them a speaking and listening part. Everybody had to have headphones and then listen to it and then make some determinations according to what they read. And so we gave our students an opportunity to do that. In the past, we did it twice. We regrouped in February. We had a chance for our students to go into those different learning environments. And now on tomorrow and Thursday, they're going to have a beacon for the 3rd time. We want to see if it's working. So they had it in the beginning of the year. They had it when we came back, and then now they're going to have it once more before we go into milestone. And when we come back from spring break, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be moving those groups to make sure that we have the right kid with the right teacher getting the right pacing of those lessons. So I gave you, again, a lot of Beacon reports, because if anybody's asking you about the Beacon reports, you too will know exactly what it looks like, exactly what it says. You'll get a chance to see what areas are being tested, what the predictions are, and what it says. Now, I want to move into what Ms. Reardon shared with you guys in reference to the CCRPI. Ms. Reardon shared with you that our CCRPI for mastery for ELA, we increased by 46%, but she talked about for mastery for ELA, we'd have to have, it was, at that point, it was 56%. And so when you look at our Beacon results from fall to winter, you're going to see that our students are growing. When you look at the math data, you'll see that for 6th grade, students that needed support was originally at 38. There were 38 students that needed support. We moved that number, and now there's 26 students that needed support. Now, again, that's when we took it at the midpoint, and here we are getting ready to take it again. You'll see that same type of growth when you look at ELA for our 6th grade students. It was 27 of those students that need support, and then we moved them up to 18%. And again, I broke down the data that you had an opportunity to see. Look at 7th grade. 7th grade, we don't know what's the major challenges that are going on here, but what we can say is that intentional exposure to that informational text did slow down my momentum, but I know we'll gain it back when they get that information in front of them in the milestone. And so if you're looking at the comparison between fall and winter, put heavy attention on the blue, and you'll see the movement that's being made at Twiggs Middle High School. Again, middle school. Again, I tried to break down the data for you because I knew you would be looking at it independently. I'm going to move you right to 8th grade for fall and winter. And again, I gave you something that you can be excited about. There's movement that's happening in the 8th grade. You'll see that if you're looking at the blue is where we last tested. And if you look at the black, that's where we were when we began. Again, there's excitement there. If you look at the ELA, those students that needed support in math, it was 33 students that started off, it's 26. We started off with ELA, there was 8, we have 12 now. We worked on that. Again, that saturation of information. Saturation of information. And we got a chance to explain to you the milestone data. When Ms. Reardon said content mastery, overall, we had a 43.5%. Again, when you looked at ELA, 56.7% is what we scored, what was reported for our movement this year. We did the same thing, calculating our data as Mr. Davis did, and you'll notice that at the midway point, we were 53%. If you'll go to the next slide, Mr. Bazzel, you'll see that at the midpoint, we were 53%. Our goal last year we met was 56%. I think we'll be well on our way. And again, this is just a prediction to see where we were and where we're going. We needed that information so we could definitely expose that information to the teachers so they could overexpose the students to the information. I want to say one more thing that happened when we talk about the math. That CCRPI score was 45%. 45% according to what was reported. We took the assessment. One thing Ms. Sanders and Coach Cummins did this year was that they went ahead and moved through all of the standards for math so that we could be intentional about repeating. So we're in constant repeat mode now, meaning they're going to see that information over and over and over again. So again, when they get to the milestone, there should be no challenge. 45% was the projected number. We're at 50% at the midpoint. I do think we will deliver good. I think our students will do well. We still need our students to practice while they're home for spring break. Leaving us is always a challenge. We get really nervous because if they're not practicing every day, they can lose a skill every time that they're not with us. So when we come back, we'll have the results. You'll hear the community and families talking about, oh, they moved my child again. We did, because you have to keep making sure that the student needs are important when it comes to learning. Any questions?
Are there any questions? Thank you, Ms. Jenkins. Mr. Davis, I want to see that little board you got. You said a whole board or something?
And I'll tell you, I have been dethroned of the addition. They challenged me, and if they beat me, I get to take them out to eat for lunch. And I had a 4th grade boy dethrone me. I didn't think I was going to be dethroned because I'm really good at math facts. He beat me in addition, but I have a girl that beat me in subtraction and division, and she didn't just beat me, she whooped me. And so she's actually been out to eat twice with me because she has earned it she has earned it by beating me. But we do addition, subtraction, multiplication, and division. They put a piece of paper in the middle so you don't have to run cut photocopies off. That's why it's called a holy card. The answers go in the holes in the middle, and you just throw the paper away. So it's quick, it's 5 minutes, the students pass it and grade it, and they need to do all that in under 2 minutes. And I've got about 60% of my fourth graders that are already on division, that addition, subtraction, multiplication, working on division. My fourth graders are showing up and showing out. They're faster than my third and my fifth graders on that. But they've been doing really good. And it's just getting them the repetition. We want it automatic.
Interesting. Thank you. Holy cause. Let's see what else we got here. All right, I want to thank, I believe that's the last, I lost my agenda. You got your agenda in? Give me just a second. I believe that ends our business section. Give me just a second. Yes. So that concludes our business agenda, and at this time, we're going to move in. Can I get a motion to move into executive session? Okay, the motion has been properly made by Ms. King and second by Ms. Blackshear that we move into executive session. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. I want to thank everybody for hanging out with us tonight. Some of you look a little tired. Okay, can I get a motion to return from executive session? Okay, the motion been properly made by Ms. King, second by Mr. Rouse. Any discussion? All in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. You there, Mr. Butler? Okay, all right. At this time, can I get a motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation for the new hires, the renewals, the resignations, terminations, as well as the transfer appointment, transfers, appointments, and transitions?
I made that motion.
Okay, can I get a second? Okay, the motion been properly made by Mr. Rouse, second by Ms. King. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, the motion passes unanimously. Now, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I made that motion.
Okay, the motion been properly made by Mr. Rouse and second by Ms. Blackshear to adjourn. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your hand. Okay, motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for being here. And y'all be safe going home.